Today I'll be presenting the literary conventions, connotations, and denotations. Connotations can be referred to as feeling and, most importantly, the emotion behind a word, and it can also be referred to as the secondary meaning or as the undertone. And there are multiple different kind of connotations. There are positive connotations, negative connotations, and also neutral connotations, which fall right in the middle. Connotations are important because they are crucial to proving a point. They can captivate the reader, add a lot of interest when coming to your point, and can emphasize on particular words and their emotions and the way that you are trying to convey your point. A few examples for the different kinds of connotations and how they are used are, you could say in a sentence, Hermione Granger is knowledgeable, which would be a positive connotation since it is a compliment. Whereas if you wanted a more neutral tone, you could say Hermione Granger is educated, which is of course neutral, and you could say Hermione Granger is a know-it-all, which is negative since it can be perceived as an insult. Another sentence with an example is, my old neighbors were very smart with money, which is positive. My old neighbors were very saving, which is neutral. And my old neighbors were very cheap, which is of course negative. And the last example for connotations is from Romeo and Juliet. Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon, which would be perceived as a neutral connotation since it is nor positive nor negative. However, if you replaced it with a word such as undependable, it could be viewed more in a negative light, and uncertain could also be perceived as positive depending on the way that you look at it. Denotations come off at the exact opposite of the spectrum, so it is more of the dictionary definition, so it is the very literal meaning of a word, and it is perceived with no emotion. This is also of importance because it can make a reliable source, so if you look up the word directly online or in the dictionary, you would find the exact definition. There is no reading between the lines. It is very specific, it is a good source, it is very clear, precise, and literal. A few examples for denotations are, their home was just refinished. The word home, when seen as its dictionary definition, would be the place where one lives permanently, especially of a home. And the last example that I have found is from a summary of the 1996 version of Romeo and Juliet, which is, it is an adaptation and modernization of William Shakespeare's tragedy Romeo and Juliet. So the word modernization can be seen as of modern style, architecture, art. However, the dictionary definition, so the denotative definition, would be the process of adapting something to modern needs or habits. Despite the two being on the opposite side of the spectrum, there are a few connections you can make between the two. They are both two different ways of perceiving a word. So one of them being more precision versus connection. Precision being the denotative way of seeing a word, and the connection being the connotative way of seeing a word. A few examples of two sentences with both of the two in them are, the blueberry was very blue. So if you see that in a connotative way, it would be a negative connotation and you would see it more as sadness, whereas the denotative way of seeing it would be the dictionary definition, so of seeing it as quite literally the color blue. And the last one being love is heavy and light, which is the beginning of one of the lines from Romeo and Juliet. The word heavy would be a negative connotation, so saying that love is more metaphorically heavy, so saying that it's difficult or heavy on your conscience, your soul, whereas the denotation would be quite literally physically heavy. A trick that I found for both of them was the word connection can be used to associate with connotation, and both of them start with C, and also for denotation, both dictionary and denotation start with the letter D. Those are tricks to differentiate each from each other and to remember that the connotation is the meanings behind a word, more of the secondary meaning, and that the denotation is the literal meaning. So that is all of the pertinent information for connotations and denotations that I have found for this tutorial. I hope that it was very helpful and that it can be used for future reference, whether it be in school or to remember long term.